Penn State fans, blue-white breakdown time, and it's a special one. Blue-white breakdowns. It's almost going to be all about men's basketball after what happened on Tuesday night. Mr. Pickett, I'm just going to call him Mr. Pickett now, had a game for the ages. Dave, I know you just wrote about it. Incredible performance, 41 points, 8 assists. Jordan center record. He did it all. They needed it against a really good team, snap him out of its funk. But what an incredible performance by an incredible player.
Now, Dick Girardi, who many people know, used to work for the Philadelphia Daily News and does the color analysis for the radio broadcast with Steve Jones, texted me right after the game was over and said, 18 years doing this, have never seen anything like it. And I'll go in one better. I've been covering this team for 32 years, and there's nothing close to it. There's nothing even remotely close to it. I've seen everything Taylor Battle did, everything Joe Crispin did. He's the best. I think he's the best point guard, not only in the Big Ten, but in the country. I mean, he is all-America level. He won't get that kind of credit because Seth Greenberg needs to talk about, whether North Carolina and Kentucky are going to make the tournament. So he probably doesn't even know he exists. Interestingly, though, the game was on ESPN, and usually Big Ten games are on Fox. Right. Or Fox affiliates, of which Big Ten Network is one. This was on ESPN with Jess Settles doing a very good job on color commentary. I mean, Jess Settles has seen it all in the Big Ten, and he said he's never seen anything like it. And Jess Settles goes back to the 90s, man, and he said he's never seen anything like it from a Big Ten player. That's how good it was. And it was 41 points. Usually when you see a 41-point scorer, be it college basketball or the NBA, the teammates are kind of feeding them. Everyone wants to see him hit 40 or hit some threshold. It's usually a Kobe Bryant-like kind of game, a volume scorer.
Luka, my man Luka.
Yeah. Trying to hit a threshold, be it 40 or 50 or 60, and they're force feeding him the ball, and the guy will end up like 18 of 42 or something. This was 15 of 20. 15 of 20. Yeah. And at one point he was 14 of 16. He didn't force anything. He forced one shot when the game was already out of reach and the shot clock was ticking down. He had to shoot it, and he shot a brick three like in the last 2 minutes. But it was a blowout. It was a 17-point difference with a minute and a half to go. And Illinois is a very good team, but a really good defensive team. They are the best defense against 2-point goals in the league, fourth best in the nation. This is a long, athletic, elite defensive team. They put everybody on him. They put their point guard Epps on him. They put Coleman Hawkins, one of the best defenders in the country, a 6'10 winger, on him. They put Matthew Mayer, a 6'9 string bean, on him. I counted 7 different guys who switched off on him or got him independently, and nobody could stop him. It was a remarkable performance, and yet he was throwing dimes all the time, and there was a play with like a minute 40 to go. The outcome is decided. He's got the ball on the paint against the backing up defense. He's got an open 15-footer. Who would not take that, who was having a night like this?
Well, I know you would, but yes.
Yeah, I certainly would. He pitches it to Kanye Clary, young freshman guard, for a three, who hits the three. Who I believe that gave him 93 points. I mean, that was the kind of night it was. I've never seen anything like it, certainly regarding Penn State basketball, and very, very few games in college basketball. It was special stuff.
Almost as good as Jimmy Chitwood at Hoosiers, but let's not compare because that was a special time. But anyway, Dave, you're right. I mean, you got to give the guy credit. It's just and for somebody like Dick Girardi to kind of talk about it in that highly of a regard really tells you just how special of a season he's had. And you just wonder, how would you compare him for like the average fan as like what is his future, Dave? I know what do you see from him? as far as beyond college?
I don't know because he's 6'2". He's
Yeah.
not terribly quick. Usually, you need a point guard to be very, very quick, and be able to hit the three. He does neither one of those things at an elite level. He's a throwback. I compare him all the time to Earl Monroe, and he doesn't know who Earl Monroe is. He's a beautiful kid, and
Right.
he has no idea who Earl Monroe is. But he has that kind of swivel dribble where he starts doing the okey doke in the paint, and he can back anybody into the paint and go over the top of them. I mean, the only guy who's really given him trouble, there have been two guys who've given him trouble this year, is A.J. Hoggard from Michigan State and Caleb McConnell from Rutgers. But they didn't stop him. I mean, they just kind of contained him. He bases everything off that swivel hip kind of stuff in the lane, and he's so attentive. He's got like a spider head with like 12 eyes all over his head. He sees everything. He's so shrewd in the way he pitches and hits guys right in their shooting pocket. If you've played basketball and you know, as a shooter, he not only throws great passes, he throws them exactly where the shooter needs them.
Like hitting a receiver in stride in football.
Yeah,
Almost.
I mean, like how precise Joe Montana was throwing a football.
Yeah.
Not only that, they really needed this game. They were on a 4-game losing streak. They were 5-9 in the Big Ten. Their NCAA hopes are on life support, but not dead. They are now 15-11, 6-9 in the league, and they have a manageable schedule coming up. They're at Minnesota, which is the worst team in the league. They haven't gotten any road wins to speak of except against Illinois. They've now swept Illinois and done it by double digits in both games. That shows what they're capable of doing, and yet they were swept by a crappy Wisconsin team, a turgid, horrible Wisconsin team, one of the worst Wisconsin teams in decades. And they can't beat this team because they turn it into a wrestling match, and they're allowed to. So they can beat anyone except for Purdue, and they can lose to anyone. But right now they've got a bunch of games where they can make some hay. And if they win 4 out of 5, you're talking about at Minnesota, at Ohio State, Rutgers, who is struggling now because Mawat Mag, their big defender, is out with an ACL, and he's gone, and they've lost 3 in a row. So they're spiraling. They're beatable at home in the Jordan Center. And the other game is Maryland at home, which is not, that's a winnable game. They're not a particularly smart team. They're probably a little better than Penn State, but not prohibitively better. And finally, they've got at Northwestern, which is right now, unbelievably, the second best team in the Big Ten, who plays really good defense and just beat Purdue.
Yeah,
but athletically, they're not a mismatch for Penn State. So all of those games are winnable. If they win 4 out of 5, they're 10-10 in the league going to Chicago.
Yeah.
They got a real shot, but they have to win 4 or 5. I think.
Yeah, given the wins over Illinois, the fact that they gave Purdue a hell of a game, I think, at the Palestra, is it hard for you to wrap your head around the fact that they haven't been able to win back-to-back games in the conference?
No, because they have such little post defense. That is their Achilles. Keba Jai, their freshman 6'9" center, just isn't ready, and I don't know if he ever will be. He's a little soft, a little unsure of himself. I mean, he has to double pump on dunks, and just on missed dunks alone, if Pickett had those, he'd probably go up a notch in assists by 1 from all season. The main thing they wanted out of him was post defense, interior defense. So if somebody gets around a corner and beats their man, you got a goalie back there. Well, he hasn't done that either. They just have no defensive presence on the interior at all, and it kills them. They're not a very good defensive team. So they've had to do it with small lineups, and Micah Shrewsbury has kind of patched this team together with both the oldest and the smallest lineup in the Big Ten, oldest in college basketball. They average 4 complete years of experience on their roster. You're talking about 363 Division I teams. They are the oldest across the roster in college basketball. So it'll be a total rebuild next year. They've got all these transfers and guys who are seniors, and it's a funny, quirky team. But when they play together and they're hitting shots, it's beautiful basketball. It looks like the Warriors, and Jess Settles said that last night. It looks like the Golden State Warriors when they're whipping the ball around and hitting shots, because they can really shoot it from the perimeter. Their problems are all at the other end.
Dave, one more for me on Pickett. What is his personality like? What's he like? I mean, you've talked to a lot of Penn State
He's
kids.
a delightful kid. I mean, sunny personality. Inclusive. Everybody up there loves him. His teammates love him because he's not a selfish player.
Right.
There were. I'll give you an example. Is sometimes on certain teams in certain situations, you need a guy who looks for his shot. Joe Crispin was never shy about looking for his shot. Joe Crispin was a guy who was going to, if they were down 6 or 8 points, he was going to go hunting for 3-pointers. The same thing with Taylor Battle. And Taylor Battle played some games where he was shut down completely, and he didn't have a lot else to offer. He's now a coach at Northwestern who's doing a tremendous job with his half-brother, Boo Buie, who's had the best season of his life. So Taylor's doing great there. But this guy is different in that he's always looking. When he's looking that way, he's seeing this way. When he's looking this way, he's seeing that way. He sees everything on the floor, and boom, the pass. He's the kind of guy that if you played basketball, you don't want to disappoint him. He's the kind of guy you love to have on your team, and when you get an open shot that he gives you, you don't want to disappoint him. You play better because of how inclusive he is. That's the kind of kid he is. He's just a delightful, sunny personality, and everyone was really happy for him. But his previous high this season was 26. He's not a volume scorer.
Right.
He's all about he averages going in last night. He's been hovering around 17 points, 7 assists, and 7 boards a game. Nobody else in the Big Ten, no one else in college basketball averages that. So he's really an All-America candidate, and he's a great kid, a terrific kid.
Dave, one more time, what do you think might be Penn State's magic number to have a shot at the dance again?
They're 6-9 now in the Big Ten. I think they've got to win 4 out of 5 here down the stretch, and 1 in Chicago, which would make them 11-11 in Big Ten play.
Right.
And right now they're 15-11. The main thing about the committee is if you lose more than like 13 games, that's you're really pushing it. So they really don't have much of a margin for error. The 2011 team, which I referenced, they were at one point 12-11, 5-7 in the league with the Taylor Battle team. And they took off when their freshman point guard, a kid named Tim Frazier, who spent a lot of time in the NBA, who is a lot like Kanye Clary. The light kind of came on for him. He got a lot more playing time early in the season than Clary has. But you could see the light come on for him and the game kind of slow down in February. And it's the same thing that's happening with Kanye Clary. He's scored 29 points in the last 2 games. In the loss at Maryland and this game last night. 17 and 12 after scoring a combined 14 points in all of Penn State's previous Big Ten games. So he's now a part of the regular rotation, got 22 minutes last night. And you can see the game slowing down for him. And he was a problem last night for Illinois, driving to the rim, creating havoc in the defense. And while they're not going to have a good post defender, an interior defender, they do now have kind of a Robin to Pickett's Batman on the perimeter so he can play off the ball more. And that makes Pickett even more dangerous. I mean, he's shown last night that he can hit the 3 at 5 and 9 from 3-point range. If Clary can keep doing that, keep penetrating and causing trouble without losing the ball, without being reckless, and he didn't do that last night, they got prospects. They can win 4 of these games. Whether they will, and they haven't won on the road. That's their problem. They're 1-7 on the road. You cannot go to the committee with 1 or 2 road wins and expect to get in the tournament. They kill you for that, and that should be part of the parameters of who makes the tournament. So They they certainly have to win at Minnesota on Saturday night. It's a bad team. They can't lose. If they lose that game, it's over. I think they really need to win at Northwestern. They need to win all 3 road games, I think, and then maybe split at home, beat Rutgers, lose to Maryland, beat Maryland, lose to Rutgers. That's what I think the recipe is.
Tough road ahead, but maybe if Batman and Robin get it going, anything's possible. You can't count it with a guy like Pickett on your team. I don't think you can count him out.
And it's such a fun team to watch when they get it going. I mean, the funny part about them is they've destroyed Illinois twice. These were routs. They were up 17, 18 points in both of those games at the end. It got closer at the end, but it wasn't really. They won by 15 in Champaign. I think they were leading by 20. They were leading this game by 17 with 2 minutes to go. They've destroyed Indiana at home, which is certainly an NCAA team. They're contending for second or third in the Big Ten. They have destroyed. I mean, they've destroyed Iowa in the first half and ended up
beat up Michigan pretty good.
They beat up Michigan by 22. This is a team where if they get it going, they're so much fun to watch, and they can beat just about anyone except of a really big team. Which Purdue is and Rutgers was until they lost Mag, who was a big part of their team. They can beat Rutgers now. I don't know if they could have beaten them with Mag, but they can win that game now.
Fingers crossed there for the men's hoops team. Dave, let's circle back. To Super Bowl Sunday. I know you wrote a column about that game as well. One of the best Super Bowls I think that's ever been played. Very competitive game. Fascinating.
Who'd you pick? I never talked to you about who you picked.
I actually thought the Eagles were going to win by 10. I really did. I in full candor, I thought I did not see their defense literally not being powerless against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, but that proved to be the case. And you just combine that with the defensive touchdown that the Eagles gave them. It was always going to be tough. I don't think it came down.
Did you see any of the video of Reddick and the pass rushers slipping on that field?
Yeah.
I think that was a factor, man. I think that field was a factor for all of the edge rushers.
Sure.
And they just weren't getting if you're an edge rusher, you need leverage and you need stick with your cleats. Or you, especially if you're a smaller guy going up against a huge tackle, which is what it always is with speed rushers. And I think that had something to do with it. Can you believe that field? If you get a field like that in the biggest game in football, how can that happen?
I know. The problem with that is once it becomes evidence, there's no quick fix. It's just going to get worse as the game goes on. I was also really surprised. Jalen Hurts really played great, but the way that the Chiefs could run the ball and the Eagles could not, other than Hurts, being Hurts, but for Miles Sanders and Gainwell just really to not be factors at all. I just thought the Eagles' balance was going to carry them, and actually the Chiefs were really the more balanced team. The Eagles had more yards, they were better on third down, but their defense didn't make any plays, and that turnover was really unfortunate. Because the Chiefs would have been down, I think 17 at half if they don't return that fumble. But they played better in the second half.
They just didn't get the ball in the first half. Once you give Mahomes the ball, once you give Mahomes the ball, he's going to do something. So before the game, I didn't make like a big deal over my pick, but John Affleck, our friend from Penn State journalism school, who used to work in AP in New York, he texted me before the game. I think he was there. He might have been there with a Penn State group. I'm not sure. Sure. And he asked me what I thought, and I said, well, you know what? I love a certain kid who I think is going to run really hard in this game named Isaiah Pacheco, because he played for Rutgers.
Connection, there it is.
I always loved that kid. I didn't envision that, but he played so hard. He ran so hard, tough yards. And then the other thing I said was, doesn't the combination of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, not only their expertise, but having already been in this game, doesn't that count for something compared to Hurts and Sirianni? And I think it did. I mean, especially the Reed and the offensive adjustments at halftime going up against the Eagles' young coordinator, who all of a sudden has a head coaching job, which is funny. When Eric Bieniemy does not yet, correct? And the Eagles OC does. Yeah. That smells fishy to me. I'm sorry. And Bieniemy was right in the middle of all the adjustments.
Yeah.
How does that happen? I don't get it.
I also think, before this year, really, Patrick Mahomes just an incredible talent. But I mean, his toughness, I think, not only in this game but throughout this postseason, playing on clearly on a bad wheel. I think you have to give him a lot of credit because he made some plays with his legs there in the second half. That
26-yard scramble is going to go down in Super Bowl lore, man. With that right ankle. What did that remind you of? I immediately thought of John Elway at the end of the Super Bowl 25 years ago, where that run hell-bent to the goal line and he helicoptered it right before the goal line. It was that kind of moment where it's not just the yardage, it's the inspiration. It was something, and he's going to be around forever. Mahomes makes he makes plays that you say he's pulling them out of his ass, but he keeps making them, man.
Yeah,
he's just that kind of a magnetic personality. Where Jalen Hurts is more of a tough guy. I just worry that Jalen Hurts is going to get injured in a way that is going to wreck his career if they keep running him so much as they do. So will he get back? You think he would, but
you never know.
They've got some question marks of guys coming back, and is Lane Johnson healthy? And I don't know. I mean, their offensive line
hold on the defensive line. I think Miles Sanders might have played his last game for the Eagles. I just think that they can replace him with those 2 first-round picks. Howie can do a lot of different stuff, and they like Gainwell. And I mean, I think he had 7 carries for 16 yards, and it was just – he's a very talented back, but I just think that I think that he might be easier to replace than some other players, and they probably have some other priorities.
Kenneth Gainwell, who had a big game against Penn State in the Cotton Bowl with Memphis, if you remember 3 years ago, may be the archetype of backs going forward in the little slithery Pacheco guys, smaller but quicker to the hole as long as they last. I mean, they're guys like that get hurt.
You run them less, you feature them in the passing game, and the touches instead of 22 runs, it's like
12.
11. It's 11 carries and 5 catches, and it doesn't beat them up as much. You're right.
Yeah.
So I think the Eagles fan base has a lot to look forward to, and I'm curious to see what they do this offseason. But it's to lose a game like that. You know what they won a game like that. Against the Patriots, but there wasn't much defense in that game either. But to lose a game like that, it's just you just went up against a quarterback that was hotter and a coach that had a great game plan in the second half.
Did you think it was over at halftime?
I did. I really did. I just thought, you know what? I thought, well, you see Mahomes grabbing his ankle and limping off the field.
Yeah.
And you see, I think the Eagles had the ball a ton in the first half. I thought they were going to wear their butts out, and I thought it was just going to get to be
a lot of people did, including one Mike Missinelli, who I saw tweeting at halftime. Rest easy, Eagles fans. And have a martini, and by the middle of the fourth quarter, all of his followers are starting to call him Mikey Mush instead of Mikey Miss. Who was the guy in Goodfellas? They called the Mush.
The Mush.
The Mush. No, that wasn't it was Bronx Tale. Yeah. You're a Mush.
Hey, one more Penn State note. I think you wrote about it. That punt return by Kadarius Toney. Jordan Norwood had the Super Bowl record before that.
No kidding.
Yeah, the year that the Broncos beat the Panthers, he had a super long punt return. It was like that game was not a good game to watch. It was I think Von Miller got the MVP. It was like 20-10 or something like that. But Jordan Norwood had the longest punt return up until Kadarius.
Did you know until they said it, until Kevin Burkhardt said it, there'd never been a punt return for a touchdown in the Super Bowl? I didn't.
Yeah, I mean it is considering that there's been 57 of them. Yeah,
that's amazing.
That is stunning. But the way that they punt now, I think that was that the guy who kicked that ball, he botched that punt. I think Tony even said it. It's almost set up for them not to return it for touchdown.
Well, now, I'd say in the last 10 years, I'd say sure, I'd believe that. But in 57 of them, I mean, you're going back through how many great punt returners back in the past, that's remarkable. Hell, there may never be one because of the way punting's gotten now and how paranoid everyone is about returning punts. It might never happen.
All right. Well, Davo, I think we're running out of time here on the Blue White Breakdown. Thanks so much for the analysis on Mr. Pickett. He was incredible. Hopefully they can get hot. They're running out of time, but they certainly still got a shot. You're saying there's a chance, then that's good enough for me.
They're only mostly dead. If they're
that's
completely
the line. I can't remember.
What do you do if they're completely dead? All you can do is go through their pockets and look for loose change.
All right, Dave. Until we meet again, that's it for this Blue White Breakdown. We'll talk to you guys next week.